We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
What's up, Cal fans? We are back with another episode of the California Golden Bearcast. We are a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am one of your co-hosts, Andy. Alongside me, I have Rob. And today, we are going to talk about fall camp.
Fall camp!
What a time. What a time.
Hope springs anew. This is honestly like one of my favorite times of year. Like right around
Same.
here. Because it's like fall camp starting up, NFL starting up. That means I have to worry about fantasy football a little bit. You know, like I start my research, like go into fall practices at Memorial. Like soccer season's about to start up, you know, with Manchester United, you know, their first game next week. And it's just the like the hype and the fun starts to build. Like, yes, I know 11 men on a field on Saturdays and Sundays will dictate my mental health for a week. but it's still, we're all in it together. We're all in it together. So that's the fun in it.
Absolutely. It is it does feel a little bit different with a new conference.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit more of that, like, you know, I'm not going to say that it's going to be this weird, painful journey that we normally experience because you know what? We don't know if it's going to be that. And that's the first time that I can say that in a long time because we don't know much about how, like, our history playing these opponents. And, you know, obviously we have some non-conference opponents we're a little bit more familiar with. But as far as when we get into, you know, what conference play is going to look like and as far as, like, understanding how are we going to stack up against, you know, it's not so much how we're going to stack up against Clemson and Florida State as it is how we're going to stack up against a Miami.
Yeah.
And I just think that's going to be fascinating, and it leads this time to just being a lot of unknown. Yeah. And I sort of find myself being like, I look at the schedule. Yeah, I know I'm thinking, okay, we got a prediction podcast going to come up. I'm like, let me get to know the schedule and understand, all right, what are the games? And I'm like, this is going to be hard. I don't know. I can't just.
I don't even know who the quarterbacks for some of these teams are.
Last season, I could just wake up and do a prediction podcast and be like, oh, yeah, all right, cool. It's like Oregon again, Washington again. Which one are we going to win? Which one are we going to lose?
Yeah.
This one, I'm like, Syracuse?
The Orange? What?
Yeah. No clue. But we will get to know these teams and love this conference. I want to start with something that came from the media days.
Got it.
It was a question from a friend of the pod, Warren, who texted me and asked, what are your thoughts? He asked me this, which I think is funny. What are your thoughts?
Because you were at media days.
What are your thoughts about Cal bringing two quarterbacks to media days?
Yeah. Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, do you have any third-party thoughts? Just because you haven't seen them play or, you know, any of that, right? So.
No.
You got nothing?
No, I'll wait.
Oh, you'll wait. Okay. I think it was just, I think the guys know that it's a competition. You know, Mendoza said that, I think, day one that we had him on the banner. If you go and listen to his post-practice presser, where he's basically saying, I want to play, Chandler wants to play, none of us want to sit on the bench. but we also both understand that only one of us can really play. Because someone asked him about, like, there's other teams that have played 2 quarterbacks. And he's like, yeah, it's possible. But he's like, traditionally, like, the best teams have one guy that's playing. So I think both understand and are competitive enough where they know they want to play. But at the same time, they're willing to be that second guy if it came down to it. Like, they're not going to be upset that they're the second guy. They're just going to wait for their turn.
What do you think changed with Cal and Rogers from the recruitment of last year versus the
not
recruitment
getting him
of this year? Yeah. Like, what do you think was the difference?
Probably offensive coordinator.
So just Spav, Blesh.
I mean, he has more familiarity with Blesh, right?
Yeah.
Blesh was one of the ones that was like recruiting him to North Texas at the time, so before he left. So, yeah, I think it was just familiarity.
Okay. And then my biggest question for you is, based on what you've seen so far, where do you see this thing going?
It's tough. It's tough because I've only camp's been since last Wednesday, right? So it's been a little over a week and a half. First scrimmage, we're recording this on Saturday, August 10th. First scrimmage is tomorrow. I'm not going to be there, but there will be a practice notebook written up by the guys that'll be at practice, and that's like full pads, live tackling, like our first look at like full on what is going to look like with quarterbacks in pressure, with the run game, with the defensive line, and guys actually getting hands on versus just like half touch, everyone stay up on their feet. That'll be the big tell. But Rogers had his good days, right? Let's talk about the types of quarterbacks they are, right? Mendoza's like, and because since we're all playing NCAA football right now, we'll talk about the archetypes. Like, Mendoza's a field general. Like, he's decently fast, but he's not like, a Michael Vick type where he's going to run out of the, or Caleb Williams just bolt out of the pocket and get for runs. But if he sees open space, like, he's not slow by any means, and he'll be able to get you the 5 to 10 yards that you need for the first down. Rogers is definitely the more athletic, like, scrambler. Size wise, there's a difference there too. Like, Mendoza's like 6'5", and Chandler Rogers like, I think 6'2" on the roster. So there is those differences. I think throwing wise, Chandler is a little bit better throwing on the run and a little bit better in the RPO game. I think that also goes in tandem with his ability to run, which is what makes him better in the RPO game. But, just standard passing sets and handoffs and stuff, I think Mendoza is the more traditional quarterback that you have. But they're asking both guys to do all of that. They're not only putting Rogers in RPO situations. They're putting him back there in shotgun. They're like asking him to do things, in the pocket. Same with Mendoza. They're not just asking him to sit in the pocket and make reads and make throws. Like, they're forcing him to run RPOs and to make decisions like on the fly like that as well. So it's so hard to tell. I think tomorrow, is going to be the big day to be able to tell. And who knows, by the time you're listening to this, like, it might have already been decided. But yeah, I think that'll be the big moment.
Has Wilcox publicly said coming out of fall camp that they want to name one?
No, and Wilcox, like, he's not good. He's really like doesn't like cementing himself with like a single answer.
Yeah. But this is like part of what I could perceive as the problem for some.
Yeah.
Which is, we have had this sort of quarterback mystery is almost becoming like a pattern, or if not a tradition.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
Where it's, now I understand never having an incumbent in the sense of like competition everywhere. That's Wilcox's MO, so that makes total sense. But it's more so along the lines of, how many times are we going to have this iteration where we have an incumbent starter a la Chase Garbers, and we bring in somebody that's more athletic quarterback behind them, and we sort of bounce between two options for the first 4 to 6 games of the season, frustrating everybody. And we did that last year, and we've done it a few years before that. Yeah. And so I think I could see this world in which it's like, hey, like, why do we keep doing this? And Fernando definitely seemed to play well enough, maybe except for the bowl game, to sort of have earned some of that time as that number one option. If I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a fair assessment to make. I think if I was the coach, here's my reasons of pushing that. Do we know for a fact that Fernando is that quarterback? Did he just have a good string of 3 games to end the year last year? Like, can we 100% guarantee that he'll build off of that, and that's the player we saw, and not the player we saw in the first half of the season where he's not even on the 2 deep, right? Like, which one is it? Which one are we going to get? Which one do we think he becomes? And maybe that's that's why they're leaving this leeway a little bit so that they can make that decision. Flip side for Rodgers is just like, he's only here for a year. Are we trying to maximize win now, or trying to maximize wins over the next 2-3 years?
What's Fernando's eligibility?
He was a freshman last year, so 3 years, including this year.
Yeah, that's what I think it is more, is this idea of win now versus, or is it long term?
But I do think they need to win now, which is probably why they brought in Rodgers. I think if you didn't need to win now, I think you wouldn't have brought in Rodgers. I think the urgency to win now and the potential of, as we alluded to in the start of this podcast, you're coming to the ACC, you're going to have the opportunity to punch some teams in the mouth. Mm-hmm. They're not going to expect us to play the way we do. Someone's going to overlook us. And then if we can do that and make noise and a couple games go our way, instead of a couple of games, 1-score games going the opposite way like it did in the Pac-12, that changes the narrative of the program drastically. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think they're in win now mode. And that, we'll get to the other stuff too, but like that's kind of what it looks like when you look at the rest of the portal and who we brought in. So, yeah. In terms of quarterbacks, it remains to be seen.
Okay. We'll save the rest for the prediction podcast. I'm not going to ask you to make your prediction now.
Yeah.
Any other standouts? Who are like, that's dark horse candidates that, or maybe like, first one we could do.
Dark horse to what?
Somebody that like your casual fan doesn't know the name of right now, but definitely will after the first 4 games.
Casual fan? Are we going offensive or defensive?
One on each.
One on each?
Yeah.
Okay. Offensively, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to pick 2. And not because, it's really tough. I don't know how to gauge casual fan. But Keon Gray's, the Ohio State transfer wide receiver, is really good. He's really fast. Like, Wilcox talked about it in that first week where the first presser, and I asked him about this, was just how evident the speed is on the roster. Not just with Keon, but just across the board. And he's like, yeah, that's one thing we emphasize. He's like, team speed. And all the coaches talk about it constantly, that the team speed has risen drastically. Sermon, I asked Sermon about this, and he said, because they wear GPSs around when they're practicing at Memorial, so they can track how far each player's run, how fast each player's run, like the top speeds and stuff. He said they had over 16 or 17 guys that ran over 21 miles an hour. Like top speed. And that's very fast. That's over offense and defense, right? And you can clearly tell that there's some guys on the defensive back end that can run those speeds. So, yeah, the team speed is the first thing you're going to notice when you go to that UC Davis game, is we're a lot faster. And because we're a lot faster, we're getting more separation. Or we're able to stick to our guys a bit more on the back end, especially at corner. When we get that separation, it's easier for quarterbacks to make the read. It's easier for quarterbacks to make the throw. Windows get wider. We're more explosive. And that's why Keon. I think out of the freshmen, my boy Trevor Rogers has been outstanding as a freshman. Like, there's not a lot of touchdowns being scored in practice over the practices I've been to. He's had at least 3 or 4 of them throughout the first week and a half. And everyone's impressed. I think Blesh talked about him when we asked him, and he said he knew Trevor was fast. I don't think they expected Trevor to get adjusted to the speed of the college game that quickly, though. And that's probably where it's kind of surprised people because he just has long strides. You know, he's a long jumper. Trevor's gonna hate me if I butcher this, but I think he in the state championship game, his final jump was, I think, 24.5.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
And that was his personal record in a long jump.
24 feet?
Yeah.
What?
This doesn't sound humanly possible, right? Yeah. So, you know, I'm 6'1". He jumped over 4 of me. Like, that's it. It's insane to think about. But yeah, Trevor has definitely surprised, you know. I didn't think he would be this good this quick. I knew he was going to be good, but he's definitely surprised. So the offensive, it's mostly the wide receivers. The wide receiver core is just so freaking fast.
Okay.
Defensively, I think the biggest impact guy, of course, is TJ Ballers, the guy we brought in from Wisconsin. He's been stellar, like, just on the defensive line. The defensive line as a unit, too, has so much more depth than we've had in years past. One guy goes down, and the talent drop-off isn't as severe as it was.
Yeah.
I think most guys...
We're always one Brett Johnson injury away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we don't have that anymore. I think it's like, you know, like we look at our starters, and, you know, most likely the starters is going to be David Reese and Xavier Carlton on the outsides, and then Ricky Correa and TJ Ballers playing the inside. That's an uneven front. Like, when we have an odd front, you'll probably stand up Xavier or Reese and play as an outside linebacker. You'll have Correa play the nose tackle, and then you'll move Ballers outside, so you'll have 2 DEs.
Does Carlton have a COVID year?
He might. 2020? Yeah.
I was shocked. I thought he was...
You thought he was done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. 2024? He might have a COVID year. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, even if one of those guys goes down, you have Nate Burrell, you have Aiden, the Notre Dame transfer, you have Big Stan, you got a bunch, and then outside wise, you have Fall, who is one of our transfers. You also have Tunkara, the transfer from Missouri. Like, Ryan McCulloch, who's a sophomore now, has had like crazy good moments. He's had on my practice notebook, I think he has 4 or 5 sacks in like actual, you know, play the game periods. So there's a lot of guys and the depth is there. So like, we're not one injury away from our defensive line crumbling anymore. I think most guys would agree Cal's best like defensive year was when we had a guy like Chris Palmer, like at defensive tackle, eating up like a center and a guard, right? Yep. To open up everyone else. I feel like we have that now. I feel like we have that with Ricky. I feel like we have that with TJ. And then some of the things they're able to do because those guys on the defensive line are so athletic is really fun to watch. Like, I want to ask one of the coaches this, either on the record or off the record, but just like, was it an athletic ability thing that didn't allow us to do some of the things that we're doing now and that we did prior? Because it feels like we're bringing some stuff back. I'm seeing stunts. I'm seeing twists. Like, you know, I'm seeing delayed blitzes.
Interesting.
Like, I was like, where was this?
Yeah.
Like, you know, one of the...
We like some of the stuff that we were doing under DeRuyter.
Yeah. And there was one in particular that I remember from early in camp was just like TJ had a stunt to the outside. And I was just like shocked because I was watching the D-line purposefully and I was watching what gaps they were attacking. And I see TJ make the stunt. And I'm like, I don't know why we didn't do this. But maybe it was an athletic thing. Maybe it was like, you know, when you do a stunt, it takes more time for you to get to the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have the athletic ability to make up for that time, then that stunt is going to be useless by the time it gets to the quarterback, because the quarterback's already going to have thrown by then because you're giving him more time, right? But I think we have guys now that are able to do that. So you see that in camp. You see the guys getting more sacks, getting more pass breakups in the passing lanes around the pocket. Like I've seen Reese do that so much. Off the snap, he's into the backfield. Quarterback's trying to throw into the flat, and he just jumps up and just smacks the ball down. Like, pass breakup right there in the backfield. So the guys are faster. Like, there's more depth. There's more size. Reese also, I think, is going to have a monster year.
I always get scared when I hear you talk about our D-line being good.
Yeah.
Because it brings up the memories under Angus when our O-line was so bad.
Yeah.
But I do have a little bit more confidence because it's Mike Blesh.
Yeah. yeah.
But yes, I mean, that is great to hear. And I think that has just been such an obvious area where you like think about the Wilcox defense over so many years. And you just would always say, like, if we could just have a couple of true like disruptors on the defensive line, then there was no reason why this defense couldn't be top 25, top 15.
Yep.
And so I think, you know, hopefully that bodes well for what's going to happen later this season.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I want to know about a little bit of like your perception of the Mike Blesh offense.
Oh, okay. Like what in particular do you want to know? Like schemes or like the
Well, I think I would imagine that people are curious, and one of the big question marks that some folks have is that this idea of Spav coming in, having a bunch of success, and us having an offense that all of a sudden could score in the 30s to 40s to 50s, and then you had that change, right? And then the bowl game looked really good on the scripted plays, and then the second we got out of scripted plays, it didn't look so good anymore.
Yeah.
So what... You know, from that perspective, what should fans be really expecting to see? Is it run first?
Yeah.
Is it, you know, and as you mentioned, the wide receivers have speed. So does that mean we're leveraging that speed to open up more, you know, running lanes for Jaden, and probably the most stacked running back room we've had
in a while?
In a long time. So
I think your read's spot on. I think it's going to be run first, especially because the star player on our offense is Jaden Nutt. Like you want to give him the ball. It's like we asked Jaden how many touches he would want in a game, and he's still like 25. And it seems about right. And, you know, we asked Blesh that, and Blesh was talking about how, yeah, you know, it'd be nice to get him somewhere in the 20s, but, you know, it'll just be based on the game and, you know, what we feel is more comfortable between me and him. But in terms of the offense, like, I think I'm not saying it'll be to this level of success. Okay, so I want to make that caveat. But in terms of how it's going to look, it feels very much like the Oregon Chip Kelly days. Power run game with a solid running back, right?
Your dream.
Yeah. LaMichael James, LeGarrette Blount.
Dream.
Yeah. Running zone, you know, inside zone or split zone, running in between the gaps, running outside, varying it up, and then, you know, having guards pull to run power. And then you have speedy wide receivers out there where you can use the RPO game, you can run the deep game. And that's kind of what I've seen over the last week and a half. Is Wilcox mentioned that at media days too, where he's like, yeah, you know, we're modernizing, like, you know, a lot of the there's a lot more RPO, like, and integrating into that in our offense. And that's, you go to practice and that's clear as day. They're running a lot of RPO, they're running a lot of run, you know, a lot of explosive plays down the field. And the guys have the ability to do that. Like, you have the bodies to do it. And not... I think schematically, playbook-wise, all that I've seen, it's a modern offense. It's a very, very modern college football offense. Spacing, speed, quick decisions, explosive plays, and still having the ability to control the clock when need be with a power run game. That's basically what it is. And so, and then especially with the O-line guys that they've brought in and built up, like, there's no drop-off on the offensive line. I have all of my notes, and, like, you look through it, and it's like, there's a solid 2 deep on the offensive line where you can interchange guys, and you could argue some guys should be playing in certain spots. You could argue the second right guard should be the starter. You can argue the second center should be the starter. Like, and I wouldn't be able to argue otherwise. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I could see, like reasons why he would be the starter. And that's how deep that room is right now. I think 8 to 10 guys are going to play this season on the offensive line. So now the question from that I have for the season would be play calling, because we haven't seen Mike Blesh and how he calls games. The reason we were like excited about Spav is because we saw him, and we have years of like footage of Spav and how he calls games and the play calling throughout a game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can go back and look at North Texas under Blesh, but we don't have that here as much, because that was more Seth Luttrell too, to a certain degree. Like, it was his offense that they were kind of running, but this is Blesh's offense, right? That they've totally he's built. So it'll be interesting to see like what are our tendencies on first down. Like, what are our tendencies when it's third and long? What are our tendencies when it's third and short? What are our tendencies, like when we need to go deep? Like, how are we going to balance out, efficient plays versus trying to take a deep shot? Like, that'll be very interesting in that first game.
We went for it a lot on fourth down last season, but
we did.
That, I think, has also become more of just a broader trend of football in general. So
yeah, and a lot of that too is also Wilcox, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's we've talked to Wilcox about this and how he decides whether he's going to go for it and not. And there's a lot of analytics and stuff involved. There's also some gut feeling involved as well. So, but that's ultimately the head coach's call.
Yes.
So very interesting to see.
Light it. There's only one place you can hear a 3-time national championship winning head coach,
a Heisman Trophy winning running back and national champion,
and someone to keep everything on the tracks. Every week, Coach Urban Meyer, running back Mark Ingram, and me, Rob Stone, get into what matters most to you.
We take you inside the biggest moments in college football
while having some fun bringing you guests from all over sports and entertainment.
Watch Triple Option on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The final subject that we have for today is a shift in the stadium.
Yeah.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
Do you want to leak?
Do I want to leak? It's already been out there. Yeah, so the Cal bench is moving across the field. So the players used to sit right in front of the bench in the Big C. Now they'll be sitting in front of the ESP seats and the alumni section. So, yeah, I don't know the details in how all the other stuff is happening. Whether the band is still going to be there or if they're moving the band.
No, I think the band. Oh,
right, because the band sits right next to the student section in that corner at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether
I don't think
moving.
You are allowed to have your band behind the opponent team.
So they'll probably move the band.
Yeah.
So I don't know a lot of those details and how that's going to look.
They could be moving the band in my section of season tickets.
Maybe.
Because when I got my season tickets, I was told that out of nowhere, I had to move them.
Maybe.
And then they were like, oh, no, never mind. You don't have to move anymore. I was like, oh, all right. But, yeah, shout out Meta, my season ticket rep. She's the best.
So, yeah, it is interesting. Like,
it's way better. Infinitely better. For like, well, as far as like the sun being on the opponent,
exactly.
The student section being behind the opponent, potential for student section to get involved in a violent
with the away team.
The away team risk higher,
yeah.
But overall, it would seem to me like an obvious thing. Why hadn't it been done until now?
No idea.
No idea?
No idea. I
thought something changed.
Something might have changed in the decision-making process, but I don't know what came to them.
Was it a Pac-12?
It might have. Maybe it was a Pac-12 thing.
Oh, I feel like I know this. It's too bad.
Reach into the archives.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll. I mean, look, I think what you said is correct. I think the opponents with the sun being in their eyes and being in that heat, like, you know, particularly. I mean, it's never hot in Berkeley, but like just the sunlight being on you still drains you. Like all of us who have been students or fans have sat on the east side of the stadium.
There's a reason why when I was getting season tickets, I was like, get me in section E or D. Like,
get me out of the sun.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the sun with an 8-month-old. No, that's 100%. I actually think, Rob, it's that the Pac-12 had a rule about either student section or I think it was
needing
a
to be
Pac-12 rule.
Okay.
Is like what my memory is telling me on that one. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. I don't think it's necessarily like the hottest environment ever, but like, let's be honest, this has been the hottest summer that we've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not like the world's getting colder. Yeah. So I think, you know, we saw a 100-degree day in September a few times. We've seen a day like that in October. So like, it could be one of those days where you get an ACC team and they're like, what? I mean, they'll probably be like, well, at least there's no humidity, but
yeah,
it could be surprising.
Yeah. I mean, you can't underestimate the power the sun has.
Yeah.
Like, it's just draining just standing out in the sun. And we're not even playing football. We're cheering on the team. And it's like, we're like, by halftime, if you're out there like in QQ or R, you're just like, God, like on for like a 2 p.m. game, halftime, you're exhausted.
To be fair, you're not chugging Gatorade and you may be consuming alcoholic beverages.
Maybe too. So, yeah. There are some factors that determine your dehydration rate. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I did see at practice the other day, they were like testing out like canopies for like the players to sit under on the Cal side, which I thought was cool. You know, it's just a little more shade just for the guys. But outside of that, like, I think there's not going to be much different at Memorial. It'll be actually there is one more thing that's different at Memorial, which is the ACC logo that's on the field.
Isn't the script new, or is that
the script? Yeah, it kind of is, but it's still like our script that the university's always had. It's not like new designs.
Yeah,
you know. So,
but it was
but the Say Their Stripes stuff, like, that's all gone.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's just like blue and gold. It's a clean blue and gold.
Yeah.
Just like the new uniforms, just very clean looking. You know, they did keep the Joe Roth like gold helmets, so we'll see when they wear those. And I don't have any information about this, so this is just me purely off a gut feeling. I think there's a jersey they didn't reveal.
A surprise jersey?
I feel like there is. It's just a gut feeling I have. It's just, why would you keep the helmets if you don't have a jersey to go with it? Right? Like, why would you keep the Block C gold helmets and then wear it with, I mean, I guess you could wear it with the white ones that
aren't they going to wear it with the gold ones?
There were gold ones?
All gold?
We don't have it all gold. It's white and navy.
No way.
Oh, we do. Oh, sorry. We do have. Do we have gold? It's the white and the navy.
Don't let me be right about this.
Yeah, I know.
There's no way I should be right.
I know. There's no way you should be right about this. This is so annoying. But yeah, I mean, either way, that's just a gut feeling of mine. I feel like there's a surprise.
That would be dope.
It would be dope, particularly in ACC. I think it would. Yeah.
What game would you do it for? Miami?
If anything, I think it might be for the big game.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I mean, there's no other marquee game coming out here.
Yeah.
Other than Miami.
Yeah.
So
Syracuse and NC State, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know.
I'm excited. I don't even care. I'm like, cool. As long as it's, not Washington.
I mean, the away games are
Oregon
pretty
State.
cool.
The whole thing is cool.
Like,
it's all new.
Going to Wake Forest, like going to Pitt. I know, like, Peter, our friend Peter and the writer, he's out there in Washington,
Our East
D.C.
Coasters are going to have more
He's
fun.
going out to Pitt. Like, I think we're all planning already to go out to Virginia Tech next year. Like, that's
the Pitt is interesting. I could probably find a way to get myself out for that game.
That'll be actually fun too, because jersey colors are, eerily similar.
So max confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and if we ever play West Virginia.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. But I think those are the only changes coming to Memorial. So there was I think to wrap up, there was one interesting like moment this week where there was a lockdown on campus because there was a shooter on campus, like an active shooter situation. Like I went to so I'll tell you my perspective on this. I go to practice. Was it Thursday? I think it was Thursday. I go to practice 9:30, right? All practice at 9:30. I go to practice. I park in the parking lot. I'm walking in through the north tunnel. Halfway down, you know how there's that security booth. Mm-hmm. Right in front of the security booth, the gate's down. And I'm like, and there's no one on the field. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, did they change practice time? And I like walked up to the gate and I like looked under it to kind of see if I could see the scoreboard. Because, the scoreboard is probably lit and with like what segment and period they're playing on. And it was up. It was like practice is up and it said like warm-ups. It was like segment 0 and they were like, there was like a timer and everything, but there was no one on the field. I was so confused. There was a fan sitting out there who was like looking for, who's waiting too. And he's like, it's like practice is like indefinitely delayed. And I was like, huh? So I like started doing, social media searching. And lo and behold, like there's some idiot, like I guess fired on the running track at Clark Kerr. Like at runners. I don't think anyone got hurt, thankfully. But he just like fired, he or she, like fired, and then took off into the hills. So they locked down that like entire side of campus, like all the way up to Lawrence Labs. Like there was police activity from Clark Kerr all the way up to Lawrence Labs.
This was last week?
This was a couple days ago. This is Saturday right now. This is Thursday. Like this is just a few days ago.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they delayed practice and then they switched it up. So like they had practice in the evening and I guess they had all their meetings in the morning. So practice ended up being at like 4:30. So I went to Memorial at 4:30 for practice. But that was like the one wrench that kind of got thrown into the week.
Common sense gun laws.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
We have them in California. So
yeah. But it was crazy.
It
was just like
absolutely wild.
But the two funny stories from that. Just to make a little bit light of the situation, right? As I'm walking in towards the gate, student tour walks out of the building, like, because I think they start at Memorial. So they're like walking out of the building, out of that, like the big barricade gates. And there's like a student, a Cal student, like leading a tour group out.
Oh my god.
Just like, explaining the Memorial Stadium stuff. So as I'm passing them, I'm like, oh, it's just a normal day, right? Then I get to the gate, it's closed. I find out it's like lockdown. I'm like, but they're still doing student tours? Like they're just allowing them for that to happen?
That seems like a problem.
It seems illogical. And then the other story I heard was lockdown, right? Which means no one can leave. Apparently someone in the athletic department, like after lockdown lifted, like went to their car to like go home. Parking and transportation gave him a ticket.
No way.
Like
no way.
It's like the dude couldn't leave. Like he couldn't leave the building. Like what? Why is he getting a parking ticket? Like because he couldn't get parking.
That's amazing.
But like the two things that won't even stop during an active shooter situation: student tours, parking enforcement. No, never end.
Oh, what a perfect way to wrap. So good. I've never gotten more parking tickets in my entire life than when I was in undergraduate at Cal. Holy goodness.
I got a bunch on Waring.
Oh, dude, exactly. That's where our house was.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like they camp out there.
It was in literally a monthly tradition. It was like, I know I'm going to get a $40 parking ticket. I just know I'm going to get a ticket.
I think it's the funniest when I see athletes talk about it. Like I see it on their Instagrams and stuff. They're like, well, one thing I won't miss in Berkeley is getting the little like either that yellow envelope or that white piece of paper that's like flapping on your windshield.
Yep, I know it so well. I got so many of those.
Oh. But man, that's it. It's a great way to end. Some humor to lighten the mood. Well, that wraps it up for us here on the Golden Bearcast. We'll be back soon with a preview podcast on the season, hopefully with some guests. There's already a couple of guests that have reached out to me wanting to be on our preview show. So we'll see who we can get on. But in the meantime, if you want to listen to more of our podcasts, you are listening to one right now, so you probably know where to find us. If not, you can go to our Twitter handle and our link tree and find all our links. Twitter handle at Golden Bearcast. You can find all our written stuff at rightforcalifornia.com, where a lot of preview stuff is about to go up soon. And it's almost that time, folks. Football season is upon us. And as always, go Bears.
Roll on, you Bears.
Bing.
When you work in tech at Cox, you get to do meaningful work every day. You get to be the biker who codes as fast as he rides, crafting advanced tech solutions that transform car buying, or a guitarist who develops harmonious apps and websites, connecting people to people and businesses, all in real time. A savvy soccer mom running solution sets as passionately as she runs gameplays. Be the super secret keeper, designing cybersecurity systems to protect private data and websites. A planet protector, expanding EV battery life and inventing more ways to build a better future for all. When you work in tech at Cox, you get to do career-defining work that solves the greatest problems of our time. Join us and connect to work that improves lives, including yours. Learn more about our family of businesses at cox.career/tech.